One of the most shocking news stories is the announcement that came from Red Bull, and it seems like we aren't going to see AlphaTauri on the grid anymore. While the Italian squad was perceived as a secured team with stable income and revenue, the new ownership of Red Bull believes that the team doesn't provide the senior squad with real value, and they are ready to sell it to whoever bids the most. This will cause an enormous shakeup in the grid, and we are down for it. One individual that can use this the most to his advantage is Andretti, but he needs to remember he is currently swimming in shark-infested water. AlphaTauri was created the same year as Red Bull, and they have served as a breeding ground for the majority of its existence. However, this is the team that won a race prior to Red Bull, with Vettel coming out victorious in the 2008 edition of MONZA, and this is the team that won the 2020 MONZA Grand Prix as well. Now, Red Bull is ready to face reality, which unfortunately for AlphaTauri isn't looking very bright. After the passing of DIETRICH MATESCHITZ, the owner of Red Bull, the new ownership feels like the importance and influence of AlphaTauri on the senior team of Red Bull is slim to none in the near and far future. With Verstappen already establishing himself as one of the best drivers in the world and not planning to stop anywhere soon, and with lots of free talent available all around Formula One, the existence of AlphaTauri could be brought down purely to performance. Unfortunately for the Italian squad, this is a field that they have been severely hurting in since 2022, and now they need to have a reality check. If you don't perform, you're out of the sport. That is the same principle applied to the drivers as well, and you cannot live on old glory in this sport. Sure, the team had a great run in 2020 and 2021, with Gasly leading it on its back and AlphaTauri finishing P6 and P7 respectively in the Constructors' Championship, but that alone isn't enough to secure the future of the team in the sport. Helmut Marko spoke about the team being up for sale, and while he was certain just a couple of months ago that the team wouldn't have to be sold due to the history of the relationship between the Italian squad and Red Bull, things changed fast. When talking about this matter, Marko said that everything is down to the shareholders, further adding, "In general, we don't comment on rumors." It's understandable that AlphaTauri can't be satisfied with what it achieved last year, 9th place in the Constructors' Championship. But such a decision is entirely up to the shareholders. These are rumors that we do not comment on in detail. Obviously, Red Bull for one tried to increase the efficiency of AlphaTauri, but the overall result in 2022 is just so bad that the Austrian company cannot go on to waste more money on finishing 9th in the Constructors' Championship. The main purpose of AlphaTauri, as we mentioned earlier in the video, is to provide drivers to Red Bull, as was the case with Vettel, Verstappen, Gasly, Albon, etc. However, back in 2021, Red Bull went out of their traditional way and signed a veteran that has nothing to do with AlphaTauri, Sergio Perez. And it seems like that was the best possible deal they could have done in order for Verstappen to win his first championship in 2021. Furthermore, there are lots of talent available in the Formula One sport, and the fact that Red Bull almost signed Colton Herta from the IndyCar 500 just goes to show that the academies and the breeding grounds in Formula One are slowly but surely losing their impact. And with this in mind, who could benefit the most from the sale of AlphaTauri? Andretti is the favorite when it comes to entering the sport, but up until this point, the decisions with the FIA were led in the direction of Andretti leading the 11th team on the grid. Not many people knew that AlphaTauri would suddenly become up for sale, and it caused a huge shakeup in the investor waters, as Formula One is perceived as the most elitist sport to enter. With 10 teams participating from 2016 onwards, it's very difficult for a team to actually enter the sport as a separate company, and the easiest way to do so is to complete a buyout on an already existing team, like Audi did. Andretti would be more than delighted to hear this news, as he has tried buyouts before with AlphaTauri back in 2020. However, this was the year when AlphaTauri was actually performing decently, and other teams like Haas, Williams, and McLaren all denied the offers that Andretti put on their table. Therefore, he would be the #1 candidate to complete the buyout on the Italian team, but rest assured that he wouldn't be the only one. Companies like Hitech and the Mumbai Falcon race team are one of the favorites apart from Andretti, and compared to the American investor, one of these two has a very close relationship with AlphaTauri and Red Bull. For starters, Hitech has served as a breeding ground for talents that end in either AlphaTauri or Red Bull, with Liam Lawson being the latest addition. But on the other hand, the Mumbai Falcons racing team is owned by an Indian multimillionaire, and if the money starts talking, then the Mumbai ones would be the loudest. Now, the question that needs to be asked: who does F1 want to have in the sport if the Austrian team is ready to put AlphaTauri up for sale? Remember, team principals don't want anyone joining the sport, and what they need is to add value to the racing element of the sport. This is why they have been so persistent about increasing the dilution fund to $600 million, which is triple the amount of what it is currently, at $200 million. There are so many interested parties on the market, and with the simplified engine regulations coming in 2026, the sport will most definitely experience an expansion. No matter how much teams like Mercedes and Red Bull hate Andretti's bid to enter the sport, this is an inevitable scenario. You cannot expect to harvest the fruits of the increased popularity of the sport in the USA, but then not allow an USA investor and a separate USA team to enter the sport. After all, this is exactly what Red Bull aimed for when they announced their collaboration with Ford from 2026 onward. Andretti, on the other hand, announced that he signed Andretti as a commercial partner for his first season in Formula 1, which is supposed to be in 2025. This is a smart move by the American investor, given the fact that the dilution fund will definitely increase from 2026 onward, and that Andretti wants to have one full year of racing under the current engine formula, with his team likely being supplied by Honda for the 2025 season. So, is it really good news for Andretti? He would have had better chances of entering the sport by starting his own team, even though the team principals have agreed that the minimum amount he needs to pay is $600 million. While this hasn't been voted on officially by the FIA, it's definitely a direction that the existing teams want to move in, and now we are yet to see whether the FIA will bend its knee to the new investors or will keep the same traditional values for the future. As we said, the water is shark infested, and while Andretti could be the best value for money type of guy to enter the sport, there are definitely investors that are by far richer and more influential than him. All hope is not lost, however, for the son of the former F1 champion Mario Andretti, because the sport is likely to expand to 11 teams or even 12, as bin Mohammed Salam said earlier in his interview. So, while it would be a kick for Andretti, it's definitely much better than not being present in the sport at all. All of this needs to be confirmed by Red Bull, because as of now, we have no idea whether the team is ready to launch AlphaTauri or not. One thing is for sure, changes are long overdue, and they are about to happen and take the sport by storm. Just like Drive to Survive taught us, if you don't perform in this sport, you're as good as gone. And this is something that AlphaTauri definitely understands. What is furthermore rubbing salt in the wound is the fact that the Italian squad wasn't particularly satisfied with how the car performed on the 3 days of preseason testing in Bahrain, and we cannot see any bright sightings ahead of Franz Tost's team. What do you think will happen next with AlphaTauri? Do you think that it will be up for grabs? And perhaps more importantly, who do you believe will win the bidding war? Let us know in the comments below.